Prime Minister Mark Carney also spoke to his Chinese counterpart today. It's a significant move considering the trade tensions between the two countries, which is affecting billions of dollars in goods. Now, Carney agreed to continue high-level talks with Beijing to try and resolve those issues.
Do you trust China?
This is the start of a process of recalibrating the relationship with China. It's very important that we reopen dialogue. We have a number of trade disputes with China. Farmers across this country, fishers across this country are being affected by Chinese tariffs. People across this country have been affected by fentanyl and its precursors. Those are issues I raised directly.
So here's a reminder of the tariffs that are in place. Last fall, Canada followed the U.S. and slapped a 100% tariff on Chinese EVs. Canada also hit China with a 25% tariff on their steel and aluminum. In retaliation, China imposed a 100% tariff on Canadian canola products, along with a 25% duty on Canadian seafood products and pork. With more, we're joined by the former Canadian ambassador to China, Guy Saint-Jaques. Thank you so much for being here, Mr. Saint-Jaques.
Thank you for the invitation.
In the readout from the Chinese government, there was a lot more detail than we got from the Canadian government. It said that the call came from Prime Minister Carney at his request. What do you make of that outreach?
Well, I think it's an important step that the Prime Minister knows that he has to improve relations with China, with India, as we just heard. And in the case of China, he knows that a level of dialogue is better than no dialogue at all. And he knows that Canadian farmers, especially in Western Canada and in Quebec in terms of the pork, have been very affected by the tariffs that were put in place by the Chinese. But I think, we have heard him during the electoral campaign talking of China as almost an adversary. So he knows what he is getting into. And I think that the dialogue will allow the opportunity to raise difficult issues with China related to their interference, their past interference in Canadian elections, the repression that they are conducting among the Canadian Chinese community, and also, it's an important partner in terms of the influence it has on Russia, and it's one country that could speak to President Xi could speak to President Putin to convince him to stop the war in Ukraine. Xi also can speak with the North Korean leader. So for all those reasons, I think if we get into this and we are very clear on our red lines and what we expect from the Chinese in terms of future behavior, I think we could hopefully get some dialogue going. Of course, it will never be as it was in the past, but at the time where we need to diversify our trade from the United States, China remains an important partner, and there is still good business to be done there.
When you talk about it can never be like it used to be, a couple of weeks ago on this show, former Canadian diplomat Michael Kovrig said that a full reset of Canada-China relations is not even possible. He added that instead the government should be focusing on building stable diplomatic relations with Chinese officials to mitigate any possible of worsening the relationship. So in your mind, what does that concretely look like?
Well, what was announced is that the Joint Economic and Trade Commission will meet. That's the appropriate forum to discuss commercial, trade, financial issues. It's a very important forum, but also it allows discussion on other issues where we need to tell the Chinese that we have learned a lot about their behavior in the last few years, that China has become a lot more aggressive in the South China Sea, in the Eastern Sea also. And we know that they are supplying lots of products that are used by Russia in its war with Ukraine. They are providing also intelligence that they capture from with their satellites. The Chinese vessels are suspected of having cut cables in the North Sea. So those are issues that need to be discussed and to tell the Chinese government about our views on how they should behave if they want to be accepted as a trade partner. The Chinese government needs a functioning international environment. They still depend on exports for about 20% of their GDP, and that gives us an angle to raise difficult issues with them to hopefully try to change their behavior. But of course, it's I would suggest that it's also a matter for Ottawa to speak with our allies so that we all raise the same issues with the Chinese to try to force them to change.
Just before letting you go, what do you think a win looks like going forward? Or does it have to be incremental in rebuilding that relationship and continuing to draw those red lines while at the same time repairing the relationship that we know was strained under Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and President Xi when they had that very public confrontation? Yes.
Well, I think that Mr. Carney has already met President Xi. I'm sure that the rapport will be much better between the two of them. It's a good thing that Mr. Carney spoke with Premier Li Qiang, but we have to have limited expectations. The Chinese are very angry at us, not only for those tariffs, and by the way, we didn't follow the rules. We simply followed the American lead. They had imposed 100% tariff on Chinese electric vehicles. We did the same. In my view, it would have been better to follow the WTO rules, to have an investigation like the Europeans did, and to have a more appropriate tariff that would have been probably between 15 and 35%. And so the Chinese won't move on their tariffs on canola. They are trying to diversify their trade, especially in terms of agricultural products. They have concluded a number of agreements with Brazil and Argentina in recent months. But I think that the good thing is to sit down to hear their grievances and for us to air our own, and hopefully to engage in a dialogue to seek ways. But a very important question for Ottawa will have to be at which point do we decide to have a separate policy from that of the U.S. with regard to China, because this has not really given us any brownie points in Washington.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there. Former Ambassador to China, Guy Saint-Jaques, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you.